Welcome to another deep dive into AI. This time we're focusing on how to make AI more trustworthy. We're working with some really cool material, a mix of marketing stuff from OriginTrail, a company building a decentralized knowledge graph.
It does have a bit of sci-fi ring to it.
Right, it sounds super futuristic.
Uh,
And we'll also be looking at a pretty dense white paper from their core developers, Trace Labs, titled Verifiable Internet for Artificial Intelligence. So what we're going to try to figure out today is what does verifiable internet for AI actually mean? Why should we care? And how could it change how we interact with all these increasingly intelligent machines?
yeah, it's a pretty ambitious vision, one that tries to address some very real concerns surrounding AI development right now.
Well, let's set the scene. I mean, it feels like we're living in the middle of an AI explosion.
Oh, absolutely.
ChatGPT writing everything, sonnets, screenplays, you name it. Google's Gemini tackling these crazy complex problems, Stable Diffusion creating art in seconds. It's mind-boggling, honestly. But with all this progress, it seems like there are a few cracks starting to show, right?
Yeah, definitely. We're seeing issues like AI hallucinations,
Yeah.
basically AI just making things up,
Oh, yeah.
which, can be pretty funny in some cases, but in others, it could be really dangerous.
Like, what if you're getting medical diagnoses from AI?
Exactly. Or bad financial
Well,
advice.
that's not so funny. It's like trusting a GPS that takes you straight into a lake.
Uh-huh.
And then it's not even just the accuracy that's a concern. There are all these big questions about data ownership and intellectual property rights, too. Like, who owns the data that's used to train these massive AI models? What about the stuff they create, the output?
Yeah, it's a complete legal and ethical minefield. Plus, there's the problem of bias, too. AI can, inherit biases from the data it's trained on, which can lead to, well, all sorts of unfair and discriminatory outcomes.
Right. So it's not just about the AI being wrong.
No, not at all.
It's about being unfair, too.
Yeah, it's like if your music streaming service only ever recommended polka music.
Oh, because it was trained on, data from some polka-loving town or something.
Yeah.
That's a perfect example. And then there's this whole other thing. Model collapse. It sounds terrifying.
Yeah, that's a pretty alarming idea. The idea is that as more and more online content is generated by AI, the quality of the data that's used to train future AI could actually go down.
So it's like a feedback loop
Yeah.
where AI kind of gets dumber over time.
By feeding on its own, less than stellar output.
So are we talking about a future where AI is not only making stuff up, but getting worse at it?
Well, it certainly highlights the need for solutions. Solutions that can bring more transparency and accountability to AI.
So it's like we need guardrails.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where the idea of a verifiable internet for AI comes in.
That's what OriginTrail and Trace Labs are proposing, at least.
Okay, let's dig into that. From what I understand, it's all about establishing a system where every piece of information that's used by AI has a clear and verifiable source, kind of like a footnote for, every sentence or every image.
That's a great way to put it.
So no more AI just pulling facts out of thin air.
Ideally,
And how would that work?
it would use what are called cryptographic proofs to guarantee that the information hasn't been messed with. It would be basically impossible to manipulate or fake the data.
Like a digital seal of authenticity or something?
Exactly.
I get the idea of cryptography, but how does it actually work?
Think of it as a digital fingerprint for every piece of data. Any change, even a tiny one, would completely change that fingerprint
So you'd know that something had been changed.
immediately. Yeah.
So it's not just about securing the information then, it's also about making sure that if anyone tries to manipulate it, you'll know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is so important for building trust in anything powered by AI.
Right, but it's not just about stopping AI from making stuff up. We also need to make sure that it's got access to, good information in the first place.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, because even the best AI is only as good as the data it learns from. So that's where OriginTrail's Decentralized Knowledge Graph comes in, right? The DKG.
Right, that's the idea.
So that's the backbone of this verifiable internet.
Essentially, yeah.
Okay, so help me understand this DKG. Is it just like a giant Wikipedia?
It's kind of like Wikipedia on steroids, but with some pretty key differences.
Okay, so it's more than just bigger.
Yes.
What makes it so special?
For one thing, it's decentralized, meaning no single company or organization controls it. It's built on a network of computers, so it's resistant to censorship and manipulation.
That makes sense.
Maybe even more important is that the DKG is designed to be AI-ready from the ground up.
Okay, AI ready. What does that actually mean?
It means the information's structured in a way that AI systems can understand and use.
So it's like, it's not just a library. It's a library where all the books are translated into a language AI can read.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
So we're making good information easy for AI to digest.
Exactly.
And that's where these knowledge assets come in.
That's right.
Okay, what are those exactly?
We can think of them as like digital containers for verified information. They can hold text, images, even more complex data structures, scientific data sets, or financial models.
So it's not just about storing information, it's about packaging it up in a way that's useful.
Precisely. Each knowledge asset has a clear owner. They're easy to find. And crucially, their entire history is recorded on a blockchain.
Oh, wow.
So they're tamper-proof and transparent,
So we can always see where the information came from.
and how it's been modified over time.
Now things are getting interesting. It sounds like we're building a system where AI can access information that's not only accurate, but also verifiable and traceable. That could be a big deal. Not just for AI, but for how we all consume and trust information online.
It has the potential to address a lot of the challenges we've been talking about, for sure.
Okay, so we've got this amazing knowledge base, but how does AI actually use it? Is it just a matter of, like, plugging it in and letting the AI go wild?
Not quite. There's a technique called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG, where AI can pull in information from external sources to improve its responses.
So instead of just relying on what it already knows, the AI can look at this external library of verified information
Exactly.
to give better answers.
It's like giving the AI a research assistant.
That can fact-check all its claims.
Precisely.
Okay. And with the DKG, we're talking about decentralized RAG, right? DRAG.
Yeah.
Meaning the AI is pulling that external information from this decentralized source.
Making the whole process more secure and transparent.
So it's not just about having a lot of knowledge, it's about using it responsibly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that brings us to one of the most innovative parts of the DKG, autonomous paranets.
Okay, autonomous paranets. That sounds pretty futuristic.
It is.
So break that down for me.
Imagine like specialized communities within the DKG, each focus on a specific topic.
Okay.
You could have a paranet for decentralized science, another for Industry 4.0, one for sustainable agriculture, whatever.
So it's like a dedicated AI-powered encyclopedia for every field of knowledge you can imagine.
That's a great way to put it.
And each of these paranets can set its own rules.
For contributing knowledge, yeah. And even offer rewards for doing so.
Interesting. So it's not just a free-for-all.
No.
There's a system for ensuring quality. It's like each paranet has its own expert librarian.
Curating the collection and making sure everything's accurate.
That's really cool. I mean, this whole system is super intricate, but it's brilliant. It's like this self-sustaining ecosystem for knowledge with AI at the heart of it.
I think that's a great way to describe it. It's this convergence of technology, economics, and human collaboration.
All powered by a blockchain platform called NeuroWeb.
Which provides the infrastructure and incentives to make all of this possible.
Okay, now we're getting into the economics of it. Tell me more about that.
We were talking about NeuroWeb before the break, which is the platform that powers this whole ecosystem. It uses two tokens, Trey and a Duordi, to encourage participation and make sure the DKG is sustainable over the long term.
Okay, this is where I usually start to feel lost. Like, I need a degree in crypto to even follow along.
I understand.
Can you explain this tokenomics stuff in a way that makes sense to, regular people?
Sure. Think of TIC as the fuel that keeps the whole DKG engine running. It's what you use to interact with the network. Like, when you want to publish those knowledge assets we talked about, it's how you make sure they become, like, a permanent part of this knowledge base.
So, okay, it's kind of like paying a fee to get your knowledge certified.
And added to this massive AI-ready library.
Yeah, exactly.
And those fees go towards rewarding the people who are maintaining the DKG infrastructure, the ones making sure it's secure and accessible.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's like a reward system to keep the library running smoothly.
Exactly.
But what about people who hold TIC but aren't, like, techie enough to run a node?
They can still contribute.
Oh.
They can delegate their TRIC to a node operator.
So they're supporting the network.
And earning a share of the rewards.
So it's like investing in a knowledge-sharing enterprise.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. Now, what about that other token, Neuro? Where does that fit in?
Neuro is the token for those specialized communities within the DKG. The autonomous paranets.
Right.
Remember how we said they can offer rewards for contributing knowledge?
Yeah.
Well, those incentives are often paid out in Neuro.
So if I don't know, contributed some groundbreaking research on renewable energy to the renewable energy pyramid
You could earn Nero tokens.
as a reward.
Exactly. And Paranets can also use Nero to fund projects that benefit the whole community.
So it's like using library funds to support research or education.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
This whole system, it's so complex, but there's a beauty to it, you know? It's like
Yeah.
a self-sustaining economy of knowledge.
Where everyone has a reason to contribute.
And AI helps connect the dots and find new insights.
That's a really beautiful way to put it.
So if we're talking about a future where AI can access all this verified knowledge, does that mean it can eventually start learning on its own? Like evolving beyond what we humans have taught it?
That's a question a lot of AI researchers are asking right now. It leads to the idea of a self-learning DKG.
Oh.
Imagine a DKG that's not just filled with stuff humans have added, but one that can also use AI to analyze that knowledge, find patterns, maybe even come up with completely new insights.
So the DKG itself could become intelligent. It's like the library suddenly starts writing its own books.
Yeah,
That's kind of scary, but also really exciting.
it is.
But how would that even work?
There are a few ways. One really interesting area is the development of foundation models for knowledge graph reasoning.
Foundation models.
These are AI models that are trained on huge data sets and can be applied to all sorts of knowledge graphs, letting them infer new knowledge and make connections between things that seem totally separate
It's like a master key.
that can unlock the hidden knowledge in any DKG.
Exactly.
And these models can be fine-tuned to specific areas of knowledge, too, making them even more powerful.
So it's not just a static knowledge base then. It's constantly learning and growing.
With AI as its engine.
That's pretty incredible.
And there's another kind of AI that's great for this, too. Graph neural networks, or GNNs. They're really good at analyzing and learning from the kind of graph-structured data that's in a DKG.
So they're perfect for a DKG.
They are. They can do things like pattern recognition, relationship prediction, even generating new knowledge based on what's already there.
So with GNNs, we're talking about AI that can not only understand the connections between pieces of information, but also predict how those connections might change in the future.
And what new connections might emerge.
Wow. It's both exciting and a little bit scary. Like, on the one hand, we could be talking about a future where AI helps us solve some of humanity's biggest problems. But on the other hand, there are so many ethical questions and potential downsides.
You're absolutely right. And that's exactly what we'll explore after the break.
We've been on quite the journey with this idea of a verifiable internet for AI. From the problems with current AI systems to this potential future with a decentralized knowledge graph, powered by OriginTrail's DKG.
And we talked about how this system could make AI more transparent and accountable. Plus the idea of a self-learning DKG, one that can even generate new knowledge.
But now, I think it's time to step back and think about the bigger picture, you know? What does this all mean for us? What are the implications of a world where AI is so closely tied to our knowledge systems?
It definitely brings up some pretty deep questions.
It's exciting, but also a little scary, honestly.
Yeah, I get that. I think with all the potential benefits, it's important to think about, well, the possible downsides too, the unintended consequences.
If AI is going to play a role in creating new knowledge, who gets to decide what's considered valid or valuable? Is there a risk that certain viewpoints get suppressed or amplified based on, like, the biases of the people who build these systems?
That's a really important point. Even though the DKG is supposed to be decentralized and inclusive, technology is never really neutral.
Right.
It's shaped by the people who create it.
So transparency is key. If we understand how these systems are making decisions and what data they're using, we're in a better position to spot and fix any biases.
Exactly. And that's one of the big advantages of the DKG, right? It keeps a clear record of where information comes from and how it's been processed, so it can be scrutinized.
But even with transparency, there's still the question of access, right? Not everyone has the skills or resources to contribute to a DKG or build AI systems that can use it. Could this make the digital divide even worse and concentrate knowledge and power in the hands of just a few?
That's a valid concern, definitely. And it shows how important it is to create educational opportunities, develop tools that empower more people to participate in this new knowledge economy.
We need to democratize access.
So the benefits of AI are shared.
And not just concentrated among a small group.
I agree.
Okay, another big question. Jobs. If AI can automate more and more tasks, are we all going to be out of work?
That's been a debate for a long time now. There's no easy answer. Some experts think AI will actually create more jobs than it destroys.
But others think there will be huge economic disruptions.
It's definitely complicated.
But we need to prepare for a future where AI plays a bigger role in the workforce.
Through education and retraining programs.
So people have the skills they need.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about some of the potential downsides. But let's end on a positive note. What are some of the most exciting things a verifiable internet for AI could enable?
The possibilities are pretty amazing. Imagine AI helping us accelerate scientific discoveries, develop new medical treatments, create sustainable energy solutions, even design more just and equitable society.
It's like we could use AI to solve some of our biggest challenges.
And build a better future.
Exactly.
And with a verifiable internet for AI, we can do all of that with more confidence, knowing that the knowledge we're using is sound, transparent, and trustworthy.
Wow. This has been such a thought-provoking deep dive. So, for our listeners today, what's the one thing you want them to take away from this?
I'd say, stay curious, stay engaged, and stay informed. We're all shaping the future of AI right now. We all have a role to play.
It's an invitation to be more than just observers. We can be active participants in this technological revolution.
The future isn't set in stone.
It's a story we're all writing together.
Exactly.
And if we approach it with collaboration, transparency, and a commitment to ethics, I'm really hopeful that we can create a future where AI helps us build a better world.
I think so too. The potential's there.
It's up to us to make it happen. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this journey into AI and the verifiable internet. We hope you found it as fascinating as we did.
It's been a pleasure talking about this with you.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking questions.
That's the key.
Because the future is ours to create